FOSIL Education and School Libraries is a podcast that aims to encourage and support you to think of school libraries differently. We hope to develop your understanding of the value of school libraries, help you engage with the content on the FOSIL Group website, introduce you to people who are using FOSIL, and most of all, just have a conversation about the role of school librarians within education. Well, here we are again, Darryl. How are you? I hope you had a good Easter.
Yes, very good. Thanks, and you?
Good. Yeah, a little bit busy, but hey ho. We're on to a new term, aren't we? Which is
Yes.
lovely, which is good. So, how have things been moving on with the since the FOSIL Symposium?
Um, well, there've been a number of, I think, very interesting and very exciting developments since the symposium. Part of what was quite a challenge is that the symposium, as you know, took a lot of work, and then there was quite a lot of work following the symposium in order to get the proceedings up and the YouTube playlist of videos. Uh, so that was quite busy. And then at the same time, we were preparing for our school inspection.
Right.
Um, so that was an official whole school inspection, which in itself was a lot of work, but also a very interesting and very exciting opportunity and experience, which I'm hoping we can just touch on a little bit later
Yeah.
in relation to one of the things that I was going to share about. So that the end of the term blurred a little bit. And then the other one of the other main developments has been uh, having now gotten all of that out of the way. I've been putting quite a bit of work into the book that I'm writing with Barbara, and we're making good progress on that. So we're uh, probably 6 out of 10 chapters through.
Wow, you're doing
Uh,
well.
yeah. Um, So there's a lot of my mind is in that,
Yeah.
and some of that will come up in a couple of the developments that we share later on. So uh, yeah, there's
Busy.
a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what are the things that you want to share with us then, Darryl? How are things moving forward?
So I think one of the things that was very helpful for me, but I think from feedback that I've had from colleagues about the symposium, is that the symposium was an opportunity really just to clarify thinking and focus thinking and activity. And one of the things that came out of the symposium, or at least the build up to the symposium, was I had been in touch with David Loertscher at San Jose State University. Uh, he's in the School of Information now. He is a towering figure in school librarianship, and I had been in touch with him following the IASL conference in Dubrovnik in 2019. But then, of
Yeah,
course, things fell apart a little bit with COVID and the
yeah,
move to Guernsey. But I had an opportunity to get in touch with him again in the build up to the symposium. Now, so a couple of things have come out of that. The first one is that the Institute for the Advancement of Inquiry, which we announced during the symposium, and which I'll talk about briefly a little bit later. So one of the things that came out of that was an endorsement for the Institute from David,
yeah.
um, and the School of Information at San Jose State University. So that was quite a significant um, development. Then linked to that was just before the symposium, they launched a journal an open access peer-reviewed journal called Learning Hub.
Yeah, no, I've seen this.
Yes.
That's fascinating. Tell me a little bit more.
So what's really exciting about that is that David invited me to join the editorial board
Right.
of that journal, and I thought I would just uh, briefly touch on that because the editorial board has some. Now, we are probably more or less familiar with some of these colleagues. So some of them are much more well known, say, for example, in America,
Right.
than they would be to us. But um, I know that you've referred to uh, an article by Keith Curry Lance and Deb Cockle.
Yeah.
So Deb is one of the people who's on the advisory board,
Okay. Cool.
as is Keith Curry Lance.
Wow. These are
Uh,
big names. Yeah.
yeah, so we remember, so we are familiar with him and his work and the work that he's done with Deb.
Yeah.
Um, the other person who certainly I'm very familiar with is Blanche Wools,
Okay.
uh, who is often referred to as the grand dame of school librarianship. So yeah, I
I
had
thought
an
that was Barbara. I thought that was Barbara Strickland.
yeah, so I've got a very interesting book that was written as a kind of a tribute to her and her work in school librarianship. So the reason why I mentioned that is so, and then there's some other very well-known colleagues as well who are on the advisory board. But the reason why I mentioned that is because, well, two reasons is that we've got the first board meeting um, coming up. I don't have the date yet,
Mm,
but that should be in the next couple of weeks. We've got the first board meeting coming up. So that will be an opportunity, yes, to meet some of these people in person.
yeah. Yeah.
And it will be very interesting to gain a bit of insight into what exactly the aim of the journal is,
Okay.
and how we're going to work together to make that happen. But that is international in focus.
So is it possible for anybody to submit a piece of writing to them?
Well,
Is it?
so the thing that's brilliant about the journal is that it's open access. So
Yeah.
the articles are available for free,
Yeah.
and it's peer reviewed. And basically, anybody can submit an article for peer review and publication, which is actually
Okay.
the second thing that I was going to mention, is because David asked me following the symposium whether I'd be prepared to write a multimedia article
Okay.
on the Creative Commons reboot of the Heroic Inquiry Cycle that I introduced with Hugh Rose.
Okay.
So that multimedia article is really two parts. It's an introduction to heroic inquiry and the circumstances around the first version and then the Creative Commons reboot,
Yeah.
followed by Hugh Rose's presentation
Perfect.
from the symposium on the heroic inquiry cycle.
Yeah.
So that article has literally just been published. Uh,
Fantastic.
so we're just about to move from the first issue to the second issue, but that article is already up. So I can give you a link uh,
Brilliant. Yeah.
for the notes to the art the journal homepage.
Yeah.
Uh, that will obviously have information about the journal and the purpose of the journal, but then there is also the link to that article that I did on the heroic inquiry cycle.
Yeah. Because wouldn't it be great if we could get some UK school librarians writing about what it is that they're doing and, you know, raising the profile within the UK of
Well,
the work that's going on.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that was one of the reasons why David invited me to join the editorial board, is the international nature of the FOSIL Group, which was very evident in the symposium,
Yeah,
both in terms of presenters, but also in terms of colleagues who attended.
yeah,
And I immediately thought that, actually, interestingly, in terms of the UK, I think Ruth, Yaneth, and um, David and his colleagues,
yeah.
all three of those presentations lend themselves to Articles for Learning Hub.
Absolutely. We'll have to be. We hope you're
Yes.
listening, Ruth and Yaneth. We're going to be approaching you soon. I think what's come out of the symposium for me is that I speak to a lot of librarians, especially people who are part of my membership, maybe, about how do they actually practically do something. You know,
Mhm.
they've got all this background information. They've got very, very excited about, FOSIL and inquiry-based learning, and how do they take that next step? And being able to share, real evidence of librarians who are in this, doing this, thinking it through, having the same struggles as everybody else, is really impactful. It sort of is it saved me a huge job because here it is. Here is what is practically possible at
Mm.
this point in time. And actually, I've got a real joyous feeling that actually this is just the beginning. This is
Mm.
where we are suddenly going to fly, because there is evidence and understanding of how, even in the smallest school, where there's no connection or understanding about what the librarian does, if you can ignite that fire in that librarian, wonderful things can happen. And I
Mm.
think it's amazing. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. So what else has
Well,
been going on?
I'm going to pick up. I'm going to pick up on what you've just said, because the other thing that came out of the reconnection with David, um, is that he interviewed Jenny and I,
Okay.
for it's called the Alive Library Initiative,
Okay.
and there is a YouTube channel
Oh, you must share
for
that as
those
well.
interviews. So I'll share that link with you after we've finished speaking.
Brilliant.
So that also is online now. So that interview has been put up. But the thing that I wanted to mention, which touches on the point that you've just made, but also leads um, into something that I wanted to share about the inspection, uh, is David asked what our takeaway message was. So my takeaway message. So we had some time to reflect on this beforehand, but what I said to him was that all of the progress that we've ever made, so not just at Blancheland, but at Oakham, and um, to a lesser extent at every school I've ever worked at, all of that progress has been a consequence of being primarily concerned about education.
Yeah.
So my primary concern as a librarian is teaching and learning. And everything else that I do as a librarian, which is a combination of a teacher and a librarian, which is the case for all of us, everything else flows out of that. And interestingly, the inspection that we've just had, uh, Jenny and I were absolutely delighted to have a dedicated meeting with an inspector to discuss the library-centered inquiry program with a specific focus on signature work inquiry. Um, So that was an extraordinary opportunity to have a dedicated meeting with an inspector who happened to be the lead inspector, and to be in a position, having assembled a portfolio over time of evidence that we've reflected on publicly in the FOSIL Group forums, to be able to draw on that and present it as evidence as part of the inspection or inspection meeting. Yeah, it was a very powerful experience.
Yeah. But that isn't normal for inspections, is it? You have positioned yourself in such a way that as the school librarian, you do play a pivotal role in what is going on in the school. That doesn't, that's come from, like you say, all the years to get you to this point. But for a school librarian sitting listening to this now, who's just had the inspectors in, who have maybe just used um, the library as their meeting point, and ignored the librarian completely, do you think that what you've achieved leads to a little bit of hope?
Um, Hugely, because the reason why I mentioned that in relation to the point that you made is, um, those those three presentations from the FOSIL group. So Ruth, Janeth, and um, David and his colleagues, um, demonstrate that the librarian and the library is integral to the educational process. Now, whether that means they'd have a dedicated meeting or not, that's a different matter.
Yeah,
But we were aware that in all of the other faculty meetings with the inspectors, um, inquiry inquiry was represented by our colleagues. Our colleagues were talking
yeah,
about inquiry.
yeah. Okay.
So the reason why a focus for the lead inspector was signature work inquiry specifically and inquiry more broadly is because that has now been woven into the teaching and learning life of the school. But that is the consequence of many, many years of work,
Yeah.
laying a groundwork for that. But we all have to start somewhere.
So for somebody listening, it's that first project. It's that first collaboration with the teacher using an inquiry framework that then, even if it's just one, leads to a conversation with an inspector to that teacher, who then discusses how that inquiry has linked to what is happening in the library and how the library has linked. So it could be something really, really small. And although you haven't personally met the inspector and the inspector has possibly just ignored you, it could be that there's a little bit of a light flickering in one of the departments that has mentioned you. So we should never give up hope, should we? That
No,
what we're doing is making a difference.
no. So our task is, so we have to have clarity of purpose,
Yeah,
and then we need to be opportunistic
yeah,
in the
yeah,
situation that we find ourselves in,
yeah,
and we need to lay the foundation and build where we can, and trust that over time things will happen.
yeah, yeah,
And all of the people who spoke, so all of the colleagues who spoke at the symposium, bore witness to that in
yeah,
completely different educational
yeah, yeah,
settings.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Amazing. And it is so exciting to see see where this is heading, which is
mm.
great.
And then I think I'd just like to underscore that point that if we don't have the evidence, so that was the thing. We had like the other meetings, we had half an hour.
Yeah.
We had so much more that we could have said than the half an hour allowed, but we were able to send the inspector away with a portfolio of evidence to support all of the claims that we were making. And we wouldn't have been able to do that had we not been
Yeah.
disciplined about reflecting on what we were doing and documenting it.
Yeah. And it's important, isn't it? Working a lot with chartership candidates, one of the things that we talk about as a way to behave professionally is to understand that you have to be selective about the evidence that you give in order to prove whatever it is that you're trying to prove. And I suppose with something like this, you can't just throw everything you've ever done at them. You have to be really selective to get your message across, and that's your professionalism that allows you to do that, to select what's really important in a half an hour conversation, knowing though that you have the backup
Yes.
of evidence. And I think this is something that, you know, having gone through, and I know it's slightly different, but the chartership and fellowship program is that reflective practice is hugely important. That, you know, it's often that we do think, and I find this a lot with school librarians, they tend to have so much to offer, and they tend to throw everything that they can at whatever it is, but there's no build up and there's no feedback and there's no, you know, it's done, it's great, we'll do that again next year, but there's no reason why. You know, where have they connected to? Why is it? And I think this reflective practice is something that we actually need to encourage more of. So it's we're practicing what we preach, Darryl.
And I think also something just to add to that, which you know we've spoken about before. The other thing is that and which is why I linked it to the takeaway message from the interview with David.
Yeah,
Our primary concern is with how the library enhances teaching and learning.
yeah,
And we've spoken about an inquiry-centered instructional program
yeah,
that encompasses all of the librarians' core instructional activities, including reading and literacy promotion. All
yeah,
of that is encompassed by, and it's only because of that, I think, that we're in a position to demonstrate, so a commitment to that we're able to demonstrate how we actually do enhance that.
yeah, yeah,
So that is the primary concern out of which everything else follows.
yeah. So, have you said everything you want to today,
No.
Darryl?
No. So they're just two very quick things, and then I just end with something about the Institute.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, go on then.
I had been invited by the editor of Synergy, which is the professional journal of the School Library Association in Victoria, Australia.
Okay.
So I had done an article before, which was an introduction to FOSIL,
Yeah,
and that raised certain issues that I was hoping to address in the next edition, but then I was ill.
right.
So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to return to those questions.
Yeah,
Um, so this was a very challenging article to write. It should be published in May. But I just thought I'd mention the title.
go on then.
uh, AI and the Atrophication of Intellect and Academic Integrity.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
we need the dictionary out then.
So I've tried to in this article, I've tried to get away from stuff about AI to a more principled position on AI that is practical.
Yeah, good.
So yeah.
I
So
look
anyway,
forward, I look forward to reading that one.
yeah. So that was quite hard work. And
Is
then
that
the
going to
other
be is that going to be open access as well?
so what they do is I think they publish 2 issues a year.
Right.
And the current issue is only available to members, but when the
Okay.
next issue comes out, that becomes open access.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
So yeah, I'll mention when that becomes available.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was, I can't believe it, I submitted a chapter, which also was a very difficult chapter to write, for an Ifla de Gruyter book. So we did that one. We contributed to that Models of Inquiry.
Yes.
So it's part of that same series. So this one, the title is Libraries Empowering Society Through Digital Literacy.
Okay.
And I was invited. Can you believe it? Can't even remember how long ago that was, but I still remember I submitted that chapter when I was in Oakham.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. Gosh.
It's just gone through its final edit,
Wow.
and is now being typeset.
Wow.
So that was an interesting one because my chapter was digital literacy necessary but not sufficient for learning,
Okay. Perfect.
which again was an opportunity to try to work through some foundational stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so that I think is due to be published in October.
Right. Great.
And then, yeah, I was just going to say, so uh, I had been hoping to put a little bit more thought into next steps for the Institute for the Advancement of Inquiry,
Yeah.
but I've had to spend quite a bit of time getting back up to speed with the book.
With the book. Yeah.
Yes, we've got a hard deadline for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what uh Claire and I need for our book
Yes.
because
Oh,
our deadlines
yes.
are slipping. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no.
Hard
Yeah,
work.
we've got a hard deadline of the end of uh, August,
Oh wow. Okay.
which sounds,
Like months ago, yeah, but still, yeah,
no.
yeah. No, the feeling,
Yeah.
know the feeling.
So anyway, but so the 2 things, well, just 3 things to end off with is that, um, so I'm trying to work through the structure of the institute,
Yeah.
uh, and um, there are 3 people who've agreed to serve on the advisory board,
Good.
who bring very different perspectives,
Okay.
um, and connections. So Barbara Stripling, from America, Diane Orberg,
Yeah.
from Canada.
Yeah.
But Diane is also very involved with the International Association of School Librarianship, and the endorsement that we received from the Dean of the Education Faculty at Alberta University,
Yeah.
that came on the recommendation of Jennifer Branch Mueller, who's the current president of IASL.
Yeah.
And then Louisa Marquardt, who's in Italy.
Okay.
Uh,
Did she have something to do with IFLA at one point?
yes, so she is actually currently the chair of the school library section.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we effectively have uh, endorsement from and involvement from both IASL and
Amazing.
IFLA school library section.
Yeah.
And then the thing, so I haven't had an opportunity yet to move that forward, but I'm also thinking in terms of working committees.
Right.
So the working committees will be the level at which strategically stuff becomes operational.
Okay.
And I thought I would just, I've been working on a frame of reference for the Institute, and I thought I'd just read a brief extract from that because it will give some kind of indication of what areas those committees will need to function in.
Okay.
So I've said more specifically, the Institute will collaborate on research into and development of inquiry as both a method of instruction and an environment for formalized learning. So how do we teach through inquiry, and
Yep.
what kind of environment enables that?
Yeah.
So both as a method of instruction and environment for formalized learning that enables children to fulfill the deepest potentialities of their being in the world,
Yeah.
and strengthens the liberal democratic fabric of society. So that identifies 4 areas of collaborative research and development: inquiry as a method of instruction, specifically in PK to 12 education; inquiry as an environment for formalized learning in a PK to 12 environment, education. How does inquiry enable children to fulfill the deepest potentialities of their being human in the world? And then how does inquiry strengthen the liberal democratic fabric of society? And those 4 areas are more or less perfectly encompassed by our definition of inquiry as a stance of wonder and puzzlement that gives rise to a dynamic process of coming to know and understand the world and ourselves in it, as the basis for responsible participation in community. So I'm hoping alongside the book and wrapping stuff up at school in the final term, including the year 9 signature work assessments, to begin moving this forward. So hopefully by the next time we talk, this will be a lot more concrete.
Fantastic. Sounds exciting. Sounds great. Are you done?
I am. And 1 minute past 10.
Well done, Darryl. So I'm just going to finish this off by saying the FOSIL Group website is free and open to all. We hope that you'll take some time to check out this website, which includes resources and, more importantly, a forum where you can discover what others are doing and join in the conversation. The link to the website can be found in the show notes below. We hope that you've enjoyed listening to our FOSIL podcast. As always, if you'd like to comment on anything that you have heard, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss out on future discussions. Thanks, as always, for listening.